ahead, slowing down and making no time. I gotta keep it rolling. Those in the windshield wipers snapping out the tempo, playing perfect rhythm with the song on the radio. I gotta keep it rolling.
Welcome everybody to the conversation. This is episode 5, and my guest today is the one and only Mr. Levi Tip You in the App. Tip You in the App or through the in the app? Tip You in the App. Spires, and he was on the podcast before. Always love watching Levi's content too. So if you guys aren't familiar, check him out. If you don't know him, you will get to know him over the next little bit here. But Levi, thanks for joining me today.
Man, I always appreciate it, Steve. Thank you so much. You know, it's funny. I was trying to think of a channel name, and there's a bunch of, really good channel names out there. But I heard the phrase, "I'll tip you in the app" from my passengers so much.
I don't know if I ever, I don't know if I ever told you that, because I mean, I did too, especially in the early years of you, because you remember when it first came out, they didn't want tipping, and they didn't even allow it, so it had to be a cash tip for rideshare. But then it became okay, it's in there, and the trick, I'm sure you dealt with this too, like especially years back, but like people would come and they'd always be like, "I can tip you through the app, right?" And you always knew that meant I'm not getting a tip. Like you'd answer yes, but you knew you weren't getting a tip then. So I used to have this thing that I did that people can say what they want about it, but I always said to people, "Yeah, but can you show me how you do that? Because I have people ask me all the time, they can't figure out how to do it." So I'd make them show me. Now, folks understand they can remove that tip, but that would take even an extra layer of scumbaggery to do that.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
because now you've entered it to remove it. Because now I've made that personal connection. I've turned around from driving you as you're getting out, and I'm looking you in the eyes, saying nicely, "Can you show me how to do that?" So to remove that tip would really take a low character.
That's pretty genius. I never thought of that, Steve. What I try to do is I'll say something, as we're nearing the end of the trip, I'll say something like, "Hey, I really appreciate the ratings. Those stars really help." And the person will say, "Yeah, I'll go back in the app." I'll say, "Well, you don't have to wait for the ride to end. You could do the rating right now." So, just another way to get them to go in the app.
You have to go to those. It sucks that you have to do that though. But that's what they're training. I mean, and we won't go there today. It's a different conversation, but the food delivery space is actually working backwards to pull out the tips.
That's right.
So, I mean, this one, it started with no tipping. Like you could not tip. It had to be a cash tip. So,
well, I love tips. But
yeah, I mean, without tip, you couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. Yeah.
I mean, if you were doing it just on what you're seeing on the screen, the offer itself, and there was no tipping and no price changing, that's not a doable anything.
Yeah, tips represent about 20 to 30% of all of my earnings every week. So I was just looking at a week that I'm analyzing for Robotaxi and Waymo and those things, and I made about $2,200 that week, and 500 of it was tips. So without tips, it's nothing.
And so I also, before I get into the topic here, I want to also say that I saw that Levi hit, I think you posted it a couple weeks back that you hit 1 million views or something. So I just wanted to congratulate you, because now you're somebody.
Yeah, I think I'm at 10,000 subsibers and 4 million views on the channel.
Oh, 4 million.
Like
there you go. Maybe it was the 10,000 subscriber mark.
I have a video that's got 1 million views is what it is. So
okay, that's what it was. Regardless, even more so. Now he's even more of something.
My son is super impressed. I have a 14-year-old son. When you're, and you probably know this too, when you're a monetized YouTuber, there's a status level in this world with teenagers. And so I'm a monetized YouTuber, and so now I get products sent to me by who knows who. Like, "Hey, can you demo this product on your channel?" So my son, thinks it's really cool.
I don't get any of that through YouTube, but I get a ton of it through TikTok. And I've been actually doing them lately. It's kind of what my TikTok channel's evolved into. It's like I put content from the audio podcast and from here, I cut it into TikTok. Always have, but now I'm doing like product reviews and stuff on there too.
Super
It's
smart.
almost like a commercial channel.
So I Yeah, as you know, we don't make a lot of money from this, but it's kind of cool
No.
for my teenager to think, yeah, my dad's a
Oh yeah, yeah,
YouTuber. So my next step is to get the silver plaque, right? So if I can get the play button,
yeah.
that would be epic for my son.
So yeah, I mean, and for those, Levi and I both have kids. Mine's going off to college in 3 weeks.
Nice.
I know,
Freshman?
right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I got a granddaughter, so I've got two out of college already, and this is my surprise third. So
Yeah, but I guess my point was when you have a teenager or a kid and they think anything you do is cool,
it's
you did
amazing.
something amazingly huge
That's
because
right.
you're never cool to them. They're nice to
Never.
you, they love you, you get along, you're a parent, but you're an adult. And if you guys can't remember being teenagers, they just don't like adults. They think they think we're kind of annoying. I don't know. But this week's topic is autonomous. My take on it is all smoke and mirrors, and we're gonna at least debunk any real timeline of complete autonomous driving. That's not real. And why did I say real? Because what you see and read in the news is simply free PR for when it does become real. It's almost like they can't have autonomous next year and not have talked about it. They're going to need to talk about it for decades and build
Mm.
up to it. And yes, some of you are going to say it's real. It's operating in Atlanta and in Austin and in 2 spots in California and Arizona. Yeah, those 5 cities, correct. But we'll get to part of that too, because that's a story of its own. That yeah. Um, but so let's see. I wanted to mention that full autonomous is also referred to as L5. L5 is level 5. Cruise, as you guys know, we won't be discussing much of Cruise today. It'll be primarily Waymo. I had the engineer on the audio podcast from Cruise Engineering. They went from level 4 testing / kind of minor level 5 back to level 2 with GM, or level 3, whichever one is like the self parking and like you're veering off the road and it helps you get back on, that kind of stuff, like helpful stuff, not true autonomous. But so they're not going, we need to go back to the drawing board. They're going, it's how I feel about hybrid cars. They got skipped over too quick.
Mm.
And L3 was never truly developed. So these companies that claim they're nearing L5, like a Waymo, is full of it. So, and here's something I did want to put out too, because it was 2020. It was going to be full autonomous in like 2018, then 2022, 2024. Then it became 2027. But 3 months ago, Dara, in an interview, in his own words, said that by 2040, we will see 80% of food delivery being done by robots. Food delivery and robots. If 2040 is the first of all, those dates, how do you know? But if 2040 is 80% of food delivery with a cooler on wheels, that puts autonomous driving at like 2090. So, I mean,
You think it's that far off, huh?
I don't think it's that far off, but I mean, but that did tell a tale, and I do want to tell people why they're not going to. We will see cities like we are seeing right now, but true autonomous is actually, it requires a huge infrastructure, trillions of dollars, trillions and trillions and trillions of taxpayer dollars. Nobody's going to spend that. And all the insurance agents I've had on the podcast, interviewed, even just spoken with off the record, have all told me the same thing. All of them. It's either got to be full autonomous or no autonomous. So the autonomous companies are self-insured right now. Insurance companies will not touch them. And in some states, they max out what their payments can be too. That's part of the briefcase deal that we've talked about many times here.
Yeah.
They hand briefcases of cash. If it's not big enough, they hand more at a city until it's enough. And then they just go, great.
Yeah, I don't know. I drive a Tesla, right?
Yeah.
And I am blown away when my Tesla, when I put it in full self-drive, which I think the number one question I get all the time is, do I trust it? Do I feel safe? And yeah, I really truly feel safe. The reason why I tend to turn full self-drive off is there's two reasons. Number one is that it doesn't avoid potholes. And so I love my
Yeah,
suspension.
I've seen that with all the autonomous companies. I mean,
Oh
they
my
all have
god.
their own issues, but potholes is mentioned by every one of them.
It's a painful thing. And then the second thing is I feel like I'm being rude to my other passengers, and I'm using my hands because if you can imagine the car, I know I'm going to turn right in a mile and there's kind of a queue forming and my car will go, oh, I'm going to get in the middle lane or I'm going to get in the left lane and pass all these cars. And then I'm going to try to cut back in.
Mhm.
So I'll turn the full self drive off during those times. It doesn't perform amazingly well when it's snowing. It'll shut off, like in a
Yep,
blizzard.
yep, yep.
The direct sunlight. So yeah, I would never say that my Tesla is something where I could turn it on and go to sleep. But I think to your point, we're all getting a little bit of a taste.
Yeah, 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 and
It's like
that's what they want. I
yeah,
mean, how
yeah,
else would it start? It can't
yeah.
start any other way.
It's like a little bit of initial drug, and I'm fully addicted to it.
Right, and I
I
can
yeah,
see from your point of view, but I mean, like, you just pointed out something that I knew you drove a Tesla, and this is something I wanted to point out, is that
yeah,
people understand that when you ride in a Waymo, it's not the same as the Tesla. So when Levi engages FSD, full self-driving, he's responsible for the car.
that's right.
And that's a big difference because when you get into and we'll get into this, but when you get into a Waymo, it depends on the state. And even then, you'd think it's pretty crazy how lax this is. Um, but yeah, I mean, Tony had me in one, Driven Dad, a couple of years ago because he lives here in my market,
Yeah,
and he was showing me, and it was pretty aggressive in its moves and full self driving, like it was cutting off a truck and like semis and stuff. Where I'm even like, even if you do make that cut, which it did, but I was like, even if you do make it, that's not the trucker's slamming his brakes behind you, and you're really making him work that downshift. You know what I mean? Like
right.
I don't
And
know.
it's getting
It seemed way too aggressive. That was my take. I don't know.
yeah, it's getting better. Like so, every 2 months there's a software update, and I would say today. So typically, kind of what I drive. I'm a full time Uber driver, and I'll leave my house around 3 in the morning. I like the early
Mhm.
morning shifts right now. And it takes me about 30 minutes to 1 hour to get to where Uber exists. I live out in the country, so I have to drive.
Right.
So I'll leave my house at 3 in the morning, and the car is already preloaded to the direction I want to go. Like, let's say I have a
Mhm.
reserved ride or something like that. And I literally just get in my driveway, get in my car and hit start, and the car just drives. And then I don't touch the car for the first 30 minutes or the hour of every morning that I drive. It just pulls right on my driveway and gets right on the road. And so, like I say, to your point, yeah, we get a little taste of it, but I 100% would not want to be sitting in the back seat of my car without a human sitting in the driver's seat.
Right. Or those crazy people, and I think you'll know this, but
Yeah.
years ago they were doing this in Texas and other places where they learned a trick with an orange. Do you know about this?
Yeah, you do a
So
lot
like
of things.
if you guys wanted to, like there was a time, and I think they've now fixed this because there's better sensors and whatnot, but you could stick an orange in the bottom half of each steering wheel, put some weight like a bowling ball on the seat, and go to sleep in the back of the car and literally let it have at it.
Correct. Yeah. So now, so I don't have to touch the steering wheel. That's you take your hands off the steering wheel to use it, and it can go anywhere and everywhere, right? So it'll drive in any neighborhood or anywhere. But there's a camera watching me, and that camera is making sure my eyes are pointed this way. In fact, one of the products I just have here, I have to demo. The Tesla has all the gauges down here to the bottom and to the right. So if you want to change the radio station, you look down here to the right, and the car starts beeping at you as you take your eyes off the road to change the radio station. So the product I have that I'm going to demo from some Chinese company, I don't know, is going to be like all the products or all the information is right here in the front. So you touch it right here in front of you, so you don't have to look away.
So if your hands are on the wheel, does it do it if you're looking down?
I don't. I guess I don't know. I can say so. As
So
soon
like if
as
you're
you
holding
put,
the wheel and it's in self-drive mode and you look down at the radio station, and even if you're staring at it for a second, would it give the same?
I don't know. I'm so used to taking my hands off the wheel that I
Mhm.
guess I've never tried that. There you go. That's a YouTube video.
There you go, man. I don't have a car. I don't have an autonomous car, so you're gonna have to do
Yeah.
that video.
Yeah. But I guess just I'm very I live in this bipolar world. As an Uber driver, I do have that sick feeling in my stomach that autonomous cars are going to take my job. And whether it's today or 50 years from now or whatever, it's going to happen. And we know there is a horizon out there.
Mhm,
But I'm also pretty excited about it as a user of a Tesla, kind of a futurist and an economist. Before I was an Uber driver, that's kind of what I did for a living was economics and accounting. I'm
mhm.
fascinated by the economics of autonomous cars, how that could radically change society. And you're right, it's going to take trillions of dollars and there's a lot of other issues out there. But yeah, so it's
And
it's
you
fascinating. Yeah.
yeah, one thing for sure is after the interview I did with the cruise engineer, I
Yeah.
was trying to tack him down to any kind of timeline at all. He was
Yeah.
being very, and he was being very straight up about, yes, we have a lot of problems. Yet the LiDAR doesn't operate correctly. Doesn't work. Like all the weather, all this stuff. And so I was like, so 30, I was trying to get something down. And finally I was like, okay, last, because he kept saying, I just can't say. Like you should say. And finally I just said, in the next 10 years, he goes, not a chance we'll see full self-driving in the next 10 years. Not one chance. And he's been with them for 4 years in just the autonomous division.
I don't know how.
Legally with insurance. And then I go back to the insurance agents who I've spoken with who have said, not, we get briefed on this monthly,
Yeah,
like
what's really
Allstate and the big
interesting.
ones in there.
Yeah, I think we could frame it in a bunch of different ways. Steve. I think it's kind of like you got function. Can it actually work? And I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but there's basically two trains of thought, right? There's the Waymo and Tesla, and
Mhm.
Waymo uses lidar. That's the big
Yes.
radar system on the whatever. And Tesla is literally just using cameras. And there's pros and cons to both for whatever reason. And I'm not an engineer, so I don't really know. But what nobody has really thought about up until about a year and a half ago is the speed in which artificial intelligence is moving, right? And so ChatGPT, Grok, you name it, whatever, these large language models and other versions of artificial intelligence are increasing in capability so fast. In fact, I've heard in the next 2 to 3 years, on our phone, we'll have artificial intelligence that's smarter than every human that's ever existed.
Yeah.
So,
And
so you can imagine, like, with giving some hardware functionality to it,
mhm.
lidar cameras or whatever, that you on your phone, there'll be enough intelligence to not only drive a car, but probably repair your car, do whatever you need to do to your car. So there's no human capable of outsmarting that. So I know the technology is going to be there, and I think you're right. The insurance, the regulations, maybe
And
passenger
infrastructure.
comfort,
That was really
infrastructure.
pounded into me by the cruise engineer. He said, "You're talking tens
What
of trillions of
what
dollars to
infrastructure is necessary?
charging ports, highway stuff,
Mm,
redoing all of the interstates because
Why
there's
would we
gonna
have to
need to
redo
be
the interstate?
because they're gonna need to have dividers for autonomous lanes in the beginning." But also he was like,
Mm.
they're literally he goes, it's gotta be an all or nothing game." And I just kept going back to, "Yeah, but we're testing it now." He's like, "We're live testing on humans." 'Cause
Yeah,
I've
we
always
are.
put out the scenario of just build the city, man. Because even like Cruise and Waymo and Pony AI and probably Tesla, they don't play well together. Not only are they learning from
Um,
humans, the different softwares need to learn to play together before they can even come in contact with the humans.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you think the goal is to get to some level of perfection? Because you and I drive. I put 100,000 miles on my car in the last 17 months. Right, so I drive a lot, and,
Mhm,
and you and I see horrible drivers out there, horrible human
mhm.
drivers, and we allow that. So, do you feel like the goal is to get to some level of not perfection, but Six Sigma? Almost
I think
perfection
I
before.
think that I would compare it like if you call what all the humans are at as the model right now, they
Yeah.
need an all autonomous model like that.
Mm.
Like, okay, all the because when you were talking about our phones being smarter than any human, I was thinking to myself, Yeah, but the problem is that's again goes to the insurance people, because that means all the phones, all the AI technology, it's constantly dealing with something dumber than it then, always, and it doesn't know
Mm.
what a human will do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I've
That's
seen
interesting.
just about, I think you have too, with all the miles you've drove, I've
Yeah.
seen just about everything. I've seen stuff where I'm like, "Is that guy drunk?" And then all of a sudden, it's not even that, he does something crazy. I've seen cars flip. I've seen it all.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, I think this is what I've been just doing. I do it as an Uber driver. I do it for tips. I'll be honest with you, but I also do it for comfort. But I'll put the car in full self drive with almost every single one of my passengers now, and the way the transaction works is like this. Let's say I've got like a 50-mile airport run. They'll get in the car and I'll put the address in, and then we're going to head to the airport. And then I'll say, hey, just so you know, this is a Tesla that's doing full self drive. And then you could see the passengers kind of like lean in and look through at the screen because the screen's really big, and their eyes get really wide. And I'm like, watch, this is really cool. And then it does its first turn, and
Mhm.
then like it's so smooth. And then you know what? Let's say 10 minutes into the trip, the conversation goes elsewhere. They put their headphones on and nobody thinks about it. Then as we're pulling into the airport, I'll be like, hey, so we made it. And I didn't touch the wheel the entire time. The Tesla did all the highway driving, all the city driving, stopped for school buses. It does everything. And they're like, really? I was like, yeah, I just didn't touch it. There might be one or two times I take over, but it's more about being polite, maybe to your point about interfacing with other humans.
Mhm.
But it's not like I did anything illegal or unsafe. I was just trying to be considerate being in the correct lane or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe I take a different route. I know there's a couple of corners that I think, I want to take it this way and the Tesla wants to do it a different way. So I might take over occasionally, but again, it's for comfort, not for safety or anything like that. And so what I found is now I've actually gotten passengers. This has blown my mind. I've had it twice now. They ask, "Can you put it in full self drive for my safety?" They think full self drive is safer than a human, and and it's funny because there's a part of me that's offended, right?
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, hey, but also you and I both know. Go look at the other Uber drivers that are out there.
Yeah.
There's some pretty
Yeah, but I don't disagree. I'm not laughing at the comment. I'm laughing at how
right.
rude it is, because it is extremely rude, because yes, there are some bad Uber drivers out there, but I would get into your car, go, "Wow, this car is clean. This guy doesn't look like he's on a bunch of meth. I'm
That's
cool.
right.
I'll just let him drive, man." Like, I would never say to you, "Can you engage FSD? I don't really trust you."
Yeah, well, and I can say there's a part of me that's definitely ego, and I'm insulted, but I'm also fascinated just from like I say a
Yeah,
futurist
yeah, yeah.
perspective. It's kind of like, wow, this guy sees that. Now, for me to do 100,000 miles in a year as an Uber driver, I'm driving 8, 10, 12 hours at a time, and so on that 12th hour, I'm pretty exhausted. And so
Mhm.
FSD comes in extremely helpful during those moments. So I can
Yeah.
imagine like at 2 a.m. picking up somebody and I'm on my 12th hour. I would bet FSD is safer than me. And I know
Yeah.
uh,
So in
it-
those cases, I'm okay with that part,
right.
because
Yeah,
like we mentioned, in Tesla, you're responsible. So you
that's right.
know that. So therefore there's a level of, man, I'm tired. I'm going to engage it, but I'm still here and I'm paying attention.
That's right. I can't sleep because it's watching me, right?
Yeah.
And I've got a
Not like a
passenger back
Waymo
there
where
and
it's
stuff
just
like that.
like, did you click the box? Yeah, you might die,
You might die.
you know?
The thing that freaks me out about a Waymo or no driver driven vehicle is not necessarily the actual functioning of the driving.
Mhm.
There's two things that I kind of think about. Number one, the pickup and the drop off. Where is it
Mhm.
gonna that because that's the most difficult part of any Uber experience as far as I'm concerned. And then the second part is like if there's danger, if there's something taking place. See, I could take evasive action. Like we've seen like those Waymos when they pull up on a protest. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
if I see fires, I'm gonna be like, hey, passenger, let's go a different direction. There's fires.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whereas like the autonomous cars are kind of like, I just gotta follow the route. So yeah, it's fascinating, and I can say I'm bipolar with it. So you've talked to some insurance agents about this. What did they say?
Full or nothing.
Full or nothing.
That's why they're being insured through themselves. That's why some, when you see
Yeah,
these autonomous companies pop up in Europe or whatever, and then
yeah.
they are down in 6 months, it's
Mm,
because they have to insure their own vehicles.
mm.
Like Allstate, you guys name any insurance company, they won't insure driverless cars. They won't do it.
That's interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because
I
a
mean,
company like Tesla can do
they
it.
don't even have a model to work with. You're working on data from companies that lie to us every day.
Yeah, I mean, but if you think about it, I mean, what's the worst possible accident that could take place? A Tesla
Well,
hits a school bus full
let's
of
go through a
children,
few.
right? Yeah, like, well, a
No,
Tesla hits a school bus full of children, right?
yeah.
Or whatever, and kills all the kids on board, and so gets sued for $1 billion, a
Mhm.
$1 trillion, whatever. Tesla's got the money for that,
Right,
right?
but Waymo has
Yeah.
traded a bunch of money to the city they're operating in without drivers,
Mm,
and that money allows them a cap where lawsuits can't go above that.
right.
And that that part I don't understand at all. But we're
Yeah.
going to get into it here in just a second. So I do
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
say that I've got like 3 videos, but I've got a really short one here. Well, I don't even know if I need to play it, but it's that AI, the reason part of this, well, I'll play it. Part of the smoke and mirrors, it's 17 seconds, is that part of the smoke and mirrors is the PR is wrong. But part of the smoke and mirrors is while we were all focused on this kind of stuff, this is some reality right here.
More jobs are lost through automation than they are through trade
A
deals.
robot comes into a factory, workers go away.
Robots could soon put together your next grocery order.
Many office jobs even.
The job you have today ain't going to be here in 10 or 15 years.
The question would be to the company, why do you need everything automated?
So my point there is that there's been a lot of articles, Levi, you've probably seen them, that like 25% of the white collar entry level workforce will be eliminated in 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah.
Now there's a real timeline, and that everybody was all worried about, I'm going to lose my rideshare job. White collar workers are going to lose their jobs before they'll be in the rideshare game.
That's right. We're gonna get it on both sides of it. They're gonna be Waymo
Yeah.
cars, and there's gonna be software engineers. Hey, I'll validate that. I Uber drive at one of the places I drive is Cornell University, and there are students that are graduating, or they graduated this year, computer science degree, and they can't find work. Can you imagine going to college 4 years ago and everybody was like, "Hey, just learn to code." Just learn to code.
Right.
And now they're graduating. They can't even, and they're from one of the top universities in the world.
And that's got to be one of the scariest ones is coding, because coding can be done in a microsecond through these AIs now.
Yeah. Have you designed any apps yet?
I haven't. Garrett, I'm friends with Gary Middleton, so I'll just throw it on his back every time I want. But I've even seen even websites like GoDaddy that do websites.
Yeah.
They've had their Arrow for a while, but now they've got this like text to talk type thing where you talk into it and tell it what you want the website to look like, and under 2 minutes it creates an entire multi-page website.
Yeah, no, just like that. I've designed video games. I'm not a programmer. I understand it a little bit, but I would just go into ChatGPT and be like, "Hey, I want a video game that does this golf kind of thing." And it designs all the graphics, and within a few minutes, I've got a video game that was designed for me. And it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So here's a question I had. Who is responsible in a Waymo accident? So determining liability in a Waymo accident can involve several parties. Potential responsible parties include Waymo if a software or sensor malfunction causes the accident, vehicle manufacturers if a mechanical defect is involved, or third-party technology providers if issues with their software or sensors contribute to the crash. Liability could also rest with other negligent drivers involved in the accident. So I do want to play this from a lawyer because it's very short, it's 48 seconds, but it hits on something very, very that all of us need to know.
Caused the crash. I'll tell you the problem.
who are you suing? You're not suing the driver because there was no driver. What you have to prove when you sue a driver is that they were negligent, that they did something that a reasonable person would do or not do. You now have a product's liability case. You're saying, hey, you have this product and the product malfunctioned. That is not negligence. That's extremely, extremely different. And I guess I should say, this area of the law has not been challenged or tested yet. The problem we're going to have is if it becomes a product liability case where you then have to prove that something was defective, it was manufactured wrong, it operated wrong, it malfunctioned in some way, and that is extremely expensive. You're not going to be able to recover $1 because no lawyer is going to take that case, because we're going to have to spend tens of thousands of dollars, and we can't do that unless your case is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's the math of my business.
That's a really interesting point. What do you think
It's a
about
very
like,
interesting point, man.
right? But
Because
we all
I have lawyer
cameras,
friends,
though,
I'm
right?
sure you do. Product
Yeah.
liability cases are not, and he's even understating it. They're not easy. They're
No.
very difficult to prove.
Yeah. No, I have those. I have a friend that's a retired plastic surgeon that is one of those experts you call an expert witness, and that's what he does for a living. As a 70-year-old, he gets called in for that. But yeah, what about? Oh my gosh, what about like? There's just so many cameras and so many sensors that I'd say 95% of the wrecks are pretty easy to you know what I mean, to analyze, right?
And often in accidents, everybody's on the same page. Not
Yeah.
everybody's a scammer or taken off from the scene. A lot of people are just like, dude, that was my fault. Sorry. So I mean, like those kind of like here in Colorado, you're not allowed to call for a police officer in an accident. You have to trade information and get the hell off the road. That's it.
Yeah.
And if you call them, they'll say, just trade information and move. Don't stay there.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, forgetting the fender benders, the more difficult things will be like, a severe wreck. But again, there'll be so much telemetry data and cameras that it'll be pretty clear what happened, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to think. Like,
well, I think that this will move us into the bigger discussion. So Waymo vehicles, both with and without human safety drivers, have been involved in a number of accidents, some of which have led to recalls and investigations by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. While Waymo emphasizes that many accidents are caused by other drivers or factors outside their control, they have also experienced incidents where their vehicles have collided with stationary objects, small animals, or exhibited unexpected behaviors. Now, Waymo, as the owner and operator of its self-driving fleet, carries its own in-house insurance coverage that may apply when its autonomous taxis are involved in an accident. The passenger's insurance, if a rideshare passenger, now this isn't with FSD Tesla, this is more of the Waymo cities. If a rideshare passenger has personal injury protection or PIP as part of their car insurance policy, it may provide coverage after a rideshare accident. PIP covers medical, lost wages, and property damage coverage for the policyholder and passengers. The passenger's health insurance may also cover injuries depending on the on other insurance circumstances. So the TOS that no rider ever reads when using these says that is what you'll be going after, is your own insurance if you're hurt in their vehicle.
Yeah, and if you don't have insurance, if you don't have car insurance, right?
Yeah,
So-
well, I mean, then you're a great point. If you don't have car insurance, you should not be using autonomous, because that could be very hairy. But yeah, I mean, so let's watch this. This one's a little bit different of a clip. It's a minute and a half. It kind of goes through some Waymo stuff.
Tonight, self-driving car company Waymo hitting the brakes, recalling more than 1,200 vehicles due to minor collisions involving chains, gates, and other gate-like roadway barriers across the country. Waymo, whose parent company is Alphabet, citing a software issue which was resolved in November 2024 as the root of the problem, and stating that none of the resulting crashes caused injury, and the vast majority of which were low speed. The company says the issue does not impact cars currently on the road.
Do you see this as a major setback for the company and for the industry?
I don't think this is a major step back for the company or for the industry. It just highlights this is the root cause of the scientific problem that has not really been resolved.
Waymo, going the wrong way!
Last year, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration launched an investigation into Waymo after reports of its robo-taxis exhibiting driving behavior that potentially violated traffic safety laws. Some instances caught on camera.
Why is this thing going in a circle? I'm getting dizzy.
A man stuck in a Waymo on his way to the airport in Scottsdale as it drove out of control in circles.
This car is just going in circles.
A low-speed crash into a telephone pole in Phoenix.
Oh my God.
A robo-taxi turning into oncoming traffic in Tempe.
It's going the wrong way.
One swerving in and out of its lane, others driving into construction zones.
Sir, we cannot move. We're sorry.
And ignoring an officer's instruction to pull to the side.
We're not driving.
We reached out to the NHTSA, which confirmed the investigation is still open.
Gosh, that's so fun to watch all those things. Do you remember when Teslas had all the battery issues up in Chicago? Like it was one blizzard and all these Teslas ran out of electricity.
Oh, yeah.
I hear about that like every single time.
And I mean, even on the highway,
they
deserted their cars.
Yeah, I kid. That's what I hear about with people that don't like Teslas. That's what they'll tell me. They'll be like, "Oh, you're just gonna run out of electricity one day, and then what are you gonna do when it gets cold?" I think that's the same thing as when I see those Waymos doing something crazy. It's like they do umpteen thousand trips, and then one has an issue. And then it's
and to further your point, so I think they claim like 200,000 global trips. I mean, not all autonomous, 200,000 global a week. So there are a lot of these happening. So by no means is that an issue. But here's another issue I want everybody to understand, because this again points to me that everything I've been told by insurance agents, the Cruise autonomous engineer, again, we know they always want free PR. But here, let's break down a Waymo. A Waymo vehicle is a Jaguar or a Chrysler Pacifica.
Something like that,
but mainly Jaguar. So the estimated cost of the vehicle and technology right now is $200,000 to $250,000 per vehicle. So we're talking about $250,000 to put a rideshare vehicle out on the road. The breakdown of cost is the hardware, the sensor suite, which includes LiDAR cameras, like you said, radar, is around 125 plus thousand. Waymo vehicles are based on existing models, Jaguar I-Pace or Chrysler Pacifica, but the autonomous technology adds to the overall cost. And then the cost of engineering and installation and installing the autonomous system of the vehicle is another expense not included in that estimated cost of 200 to 250,000. And then the other costs, there are other operational costs like maintenance, insurance, charging, and support staff in addition to the same cost. So now we've taken 250 grand. We're at about $500,000 per vehicle, and you're paying an employee because there has to be a driver to each car, even if it's at location.
Yeah, I don't see Waymo as the right model. You know, as a Tesla guy, I would say my Tesla, sells for $42,000, $43,000. Tesla Model Y. It depends which model you get, and everything's built. My car, technically speaking, has everything built into it already, because Tesla is a manufacturing company, whereas Waymo, is trying to install something on a vehicle. So I think it's a real interesting horse race, right, between Waymo and Tesla, where Waymo is operating in more cities and they have a network that's better right now, whereas Tesla has the manufacturing, and the manufacturing is extremely cheap for Tesla to do it. And that really comes down to cameras versus, LiDAR systems. Well, what would you trust?
I think I'd trust the camera.
Why?
And well, because my reason is pretty dumb, I think. But like the old cop cars had like the big siren on top, like a top hat almost.
Yeah.
They moved away from that because it was stupid. It was getting hit by things and broken off. The LiDAR the LiDAR alone is 80 grand and operates at 80% efficiency. Why do we have some spinning thing up on the top of a car The only thing I can think of is that just lets you know it's a Waymo. Because really
Yeah.
that LiDAR it looks stupid. It works at 80%. That's not a good enough percentage in my book. And I mean, I also believe that that Tesla's more advanced than Waymo.
I think you're right. You know, I heard Elon say something like, you and I, we use our eyes to make decisions and make judgments as a driver, and we don't have anywhere near the perception that multiple cameras have. Now we have depth perception and we have context and we have a lot more. Our brains are still a lot better than software to some extent. Um,
Mhm.
but when the software gets better than us, as just reaction time to context. Here's an example that I think about all the time, and I tell this to my passengers. If I'm driving down the road, and you'll say it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone, so just a neighborhood road, and I see somebody jogging on the side of the road. Let's say they're
Mhm.
wearing, sweatpants and a headband and maybe, whatever, and you could tell they're clearly jogging. I'm going to move over to the side. I might slow down to 25, but I'm going to give them a lot of space and I'm going to pass them pretty quickly. Whereas if I see somebody running, but let's say they got jeans on and a leather jacket, and maybe they got a dog leash, I might come to a complete stop. Like, where are they going? Right? Because they're gonna dart in front of me. I'm
Yeah.
concerned that they're not running for the same reason. Whereas a LiDAR system will see a human standing there. The radar will pick them up and say that's a person, and they'll clearly identify him. But there's no context, and that context gives you and I the ability to make decisions. Now, cameras hooked up to a large language model, some sort of artificial intelligence, will be able to decipher between the two humans. Oh, that's a person jogging for exercise, and they're going to stay on
Mhm.
the side of the road. Whereas that other person could be running, looking for their dog in a dog, or they could jump out in front of me. There's something wrong. Let me slow down a lot. And so I
Mhm.
think you're right. Cameras, and I probably it's going to happen is I think it's going to be hybrid of both, because lidars give you the accuracy of distances and accuracy of that, where cameras give you context. But you got to keep the cost down, because there's no way, to your point, which you started off the segment, there's no way cars are going to operate at $250,000 each and replace humans because I'm not
Actually, 500,000.
or
And
whatever.
that's
Yeah.
my thing. The
Yeah.
thing becomes, how much lifespan does it have too? Like each of these parts that I'm mentioning, like I don't know about Teslas, but
Yeah.
that the LiDAR has a lifespan of 5 years tops. That means
Wow.
80,000 needs to go onto that needs to be replaced at least every 5 years,
Yeah.
or
So
at
you think,
most.
yeah, but you think like,
But then people break them. They do drugs in the car, they piss in
oh
the
God,
car, they break
that's
things
the
in
thing.
these. So when there's no driver, these cars are getting destroyed. Are they gonna go get cleaned in between each one?
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. So I was working on, right before we started this today. That's what I was working on, is just trying to figure out like how much money would you have to make to put your Tesla, because that's Tesla's promise. That's another
Mhm.
Elon promise. Hey, you'll be able to put your car onto our network and make money while you're
Mm,
sleeping at night.
I've
And
seen
I'm
that, yeah.
thinking, I would never,
Yeah.
never I would never let my
It's
car
like
die.
your
You and
kid
I,
coming home drunk from a party. It's like hiccups and beer cans falling out of the car.
and
Drug needles in the back.
people will be like, well, you can have cameras in the car. I'm like, that's not going to solve half the issues. I mean, you're in Colorado, right?
Mhm.
My biggest concern is slush. When it
Oh, yeah.
snows, it snows 6 months out of the year here, and people get in my car with snow on their feet. And
Mhm.
about every 2 or 3 rides, I have to clean my back seat out. If I don't, I'll have a puddle going around back there, because the snow melts, and I have the all weather, whatever weather tech mats and everything. But if I don't get the snow physically and scoop it out of my back seat, out of the back floor bed, I'll have it's sloshing around back there. And there's no camera that's going to solve that. You're not going to punish people because of that. You're not going to punish a passenger, like fine them for making your car
Also,
messy. It's
what are you
just,
gonna do? Review 8 hours of footage from that night and see who did it?
who left the Doritos bag in your car?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. You're just not going to
I
get into
mean,
that.
and so, I mean, one of the other big problems that they're already having is people that they were in San Francisco, because I know this because Cruz left because they kind of had to, but they
Yeah.
left San Francisco because one of the things that was happening tremendously there was a ton of sex in the cars. Sex was, I mean, I got to tell you, and you've probably experienced it too. Sex as a rideshare driver, they try and pull that crap even when you're just driving as a human. But at least you're able to turn around and go, yo, knock it off, man.
I could start some sort of channel. Some sort of with my camera. Make some side hustle money. No, you're exactly right. So there's some real issues that have to be overcome. But I think if I were to put all these issues on a scale, I think the technology is 90% of the way there, if not 95% of the way there. There's some hurdles.
I agree with you on that part. It's getting how do you not have people do sex, drugs, and then you have a family get in after they've done drugs or this, that, and the other. You're going to clean in between each one. The cost of it, 500,000 plus. Insurance companies aren't on board. So it's not the technology so much that I'm talking about in my worry. It's the concern of everything comes down to money, and the money isn't going to back it.
There it is.
And how much are these trips going to be? $1,000 for 10 miles?
I know,
because that's what it's going to cost. I mean, they can't make money now. How are they going to make money with spending $500,000 on each car?
What's really interesting as I thought about it. Tell me if you think this is a good solution. So one of the cool things about Tesla is there might be multiple rideshare companies, right? So you don't have to have just Uber and Tesla. You might be able to create your own app and put your car on your own infrastructure, right? So if you have 100 Teslas, you can create your own app and just have those out there running. I thought about a grading system of passengers. So basically the first 5 rides, you have to ride with a human. And then if the human says you're going to be a good passenger, then you're approved to go into our network of 100 cars or something like that. So it's like, and that network could be nationwide, but whatever it is.
Well, that is how Waymo 1 started.
Oh, really?
You had to be, you couldn't just download the app. You had to be invited. And so it was like a lot of people affiliated, even if they didn't people who worked for them, their families, all that kind of stuff, of course. But other than that, you had to have it was like Willy Wonka's golden ticket.
That's really interesting.
You had to get one to be able to ride the cars. Because you had to use Waymo 1. You couldn't. I mean, if you remember, this is like the 3rd time they've tried Uber. Every time they try it, it's like a week. They're like, nope, we're done.
Nope. Yeah, because if people, that's what what's so funny is I try to explain to people. They're like, oh, you must be out taking drunks everywhere, or you must be out taking people to the airport. And I'm like, no, I just take regular people to and from their appointments all day, and they have no respect for my car. And so I can only imagine with nobody in the car, the damage that's going to take place.
Yeah. Well, and so, I also wanted to address what you were saying about the LiDAR, and because you brought up a good point that I wasn't even going to address today, but I think it's important too. Because you were talking about the guy running in jeans and a jacket as opposed to like a sweatsuit. And I got to say that if everybody remembers the final straw in San Francisco for Cruise leaving, and if you're wondering, what is this Cruise? If you haven't heard of them, in San Francisco, it was 50% Waymo, 50% Cruise for the last 3 years. Now it's Cruise is kind of left. But I mean, they're not a small company. They're big.
Yeah.
But they were on, I can't remember the name of the street, but most people don't know San Francisco, so it doesn't matter. But it has 3 lanes going each way. Okay. And this isn't a highway, it's in the city. It's like the main vein through from South San Francisco to the north side. But anyway, there's a part where there was a guy not in a crosswalk walking across the street. So he had cleared the 3 lanes and got to the medium. And now he was about to clear the 3 lanes to the sidewalk of the oncoming traffic where the Cruise was. The Cruise LiDAR, now they investigated all this and they proved it did pick it up. It saw him, but it saw him in the medium outside of the crosswalk. And before I even tell the story, here's my first thought. That Cruise should have pulled over and stopped right there. There is a human that is not where he's supposed to be. That should cause a malfunction and not just, hey man, wing it. No. So the guy crosses the first lane, crosses the second, and gets clipped by a car, not the Cruise, but gets clipped by a car that's in front of the Cruise in the middle lane. Barely, doesn't get hit, just kind of clipped, and he falls down. As he's trying to get up, the Cruise runs over him and stops on top of him.
I remember that.
Okay, so why didn't that cruise just? So I've had people argue the point of, well, that's I mean, that's the guy who clipped him's fault. Well, but he wouldn't have got if the cruise would have pulled over, he might have got still run over and pinned by another car. But when it's a driverless car,
Makes for a good news
come on,
story,
guys,
doesn't
like
it?
that's just unacceptable in every way to me.
Well, I imagine he got stuck underneath the car because the car sensed an accident, but the sensors don't look down into the ground. What's underneath me? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I mean, so you
Yeah.
remember the story. They had to bring like the jaws of life. The fire department had to come out. They had
That's
to
right.
jack up the car. They were using cinder blocks. The person was dead, but um, I mean, not only did it hit him, not only did it said that, 9 seconds prior, 6 seconds prior, it had identified the person. So they didn't even try and get around that. The LiDAR said there's a person in the middle of the road. So again, I go back to my, hey man, the safety feature should be pull over. The other thing I'm wondering is, in every time there's one of these incidents, why is it that there has to be a safety operator for each vehicle, not one that's overseeing the fleet, but for each vehicle? Is he just sleeping? Is it just that they're just literally not doing the job? Because why didn't he say, whoa, stop, there's a person there?
Yeah, I don't know, but that was what, 6 some odd years ago, right? That was a pretty good
That was
ways
a couple
ago.
of years ago. It was
Yeah.
after it was between now and the pandemic.
Really? Okay, I thought it
Yeah,
happened
yeah.
before the pandemic. Okay.
No.
My I just think it's a lot better now. At least I don't know. I can't speak for Waymo, but the Tesla. I mean, my Tesla.
Yeah,
Do you
no.
remember you
And
said you
that's why,
rode in your
guys,
friends?
if you're listening to us
So
today,
good. Yeah.
if you're listening to us, Levi drives a Tesla. That is a
Yeah.
much different experience, I'm sure. Again, I
Yeah.
don't think any of them are ready, but I'm trying to really focus in on because
Waymo.
he uses the full self-drive with Tesla. I'm trying to focus on Waymo or other vehicles that are being driverless for
Already.
PR stunts more than anything, that have a person with a joystick that's supposed to be controlling it.
Isn't that person monitoring 6 vehicles? Not just one. There's like one person monitoring 6 vehicles. Is what I
Maybe.
heard.
It depends on the state, and that's something that I do wanna get into here, 'cause I have a quick breakdown of California. It's just one paragraph, but I really broke down Arizona, and that's kind of the main things we'll
Yeah.
cover here, 'cause I wanna get everybody's take on this, and I will put the link to this article into, it's a pretty lengthy article, but I'll put it in the show notes after. But so I've bullet pointed this. So this is the investigation purposes. I broke it down into some categories here. After several close calls involving, now this is Arizona, the Phoenix Tempe area, where they've been operating the longest, longer than California, longer than anywhere. That's been the AV testing ground, because it's a desert. Like Levi was saying, it doesn't have snow. It doesn't have some of the things that give it issues. So, how often are autonomous vehicles at fault in crashes? Can they be ticketed when they are at fault? So the crash data and reporting shows that at least 202 crashes, and this is just for the Tempe, Phoenix area, 202 crashes between 2021 and 2023. Incidents ranged from minor scrapes to 61 hospital injuries caused collisions. Reports are heavily redacted, and they keep mentioning this through the article too, making it difficult to determine fault. So the independent review collected and reviewed 71 police crash reports from Phoenix, Scottsdale, Chandler, Mesa, and Tempe. Approximately 2 out of every 5 crashes was the fault of the autonomous vehicle. That's way too high, in my opinion, for something that's supposed to be superior to us.
Right.
I mean, I would think it even needs to be under 1, like 0.3 out of every 5.
Yeah. Do you think that's
40%. That's just
40%? It's horrible. Yeah. I wonder. Yeah. Waymo just seems to me like it's lacking the volume, of the sheer volume number of rides and experiences to operate autonomously in a place like, Denver or New York. You know what I mean? Just there's so many variables that you and I as humans, you know, even though we haven't even experienced them all, we've seen them, we've heard of them, we know of them. And whereas the Waymos are just too almost it sounds like they're robotic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Lacking that human empathy, the judgment, things like that.
So there's a known case incident that they've made in court in the Phoenix area, known as the JAAFAR, Yafar maybe is his name. It's known as the Yafar case, and it's from October 2024. I'm sorry, Old Town Scottsdale. What happened? A Waymo crossed the double yellow line and struck Yasar's car. So again, went into oncoming traffic and struck him. Police report. Waymo scraped driver's side of Yasan's vehicle, stopped a short distance ahead in the wrong lane. Yasan described incident as scary and reckless, said this is a computer, not a human. This is AI, so it kind of scared me, and believes a human driver would not have made that mistake, and I agree. So uncounted incidents. Now this is kind of strange too. Indirect fault, missing from official count. So this is some of the redacted stuff. Again, just to Arizona. And in Arizona, I need you guys to realize, I was telling Levi this before we went live. In Arizona, each state's different. California, the person who's in charge of watching the vehicle can be ticketed. In Arizona, if there's no driver, nobody can be ticketed. If there's a driverless car, there can't be a ticket issued, even if they're at fault. Now they could go after the company or whatever, but so missing from the official counts, cases where Waymo vehicles confused or startled other drivers into crashing in without physical contact. 2024 incident in Chandler. Waymo's confusing behavior contributed to the crash of 5 cars, 3 of which were totaled, and it kept about its way. It caused the crash. Everybody's screeching the brakes, whatever, in an intersection. 5-car accident, and the Waymo leaves the scene of an accident. We would all be put in jail for that.
Think so.
Okay, so just keep that in mind, because as we move on here, can Waymos be ticketed? So 2023, the Joel Casper's was rear-ended at a light with a Waymo going 30 miles an hour that hadn't even slowed down. Car was totaled, pushed into the intersection, and no ticket was issued because the Waymo was in autonomous mode with no person inside. This is when this first started really getting headlines. There's a bunch of different marker points, but this one was like the multiple police where they're going, what do you mean? Like, well, let's get them. Well, there's nobody to ticket. They were talking to the person through the car. They had the window down in the Waymo, and they're like, dude, you're responsible for this. And they're like, well, Arizona law says we can't be. I mean, like, they were quoting Arizona law from the Waymo office. And so, it's like no ticket was issued because Waymo. And then the guy said, somebody needs to get a ticket here. What's going on? Then there's a 2024 case where Waymo entered oncoming traffic near a construction zone in Phoenix. Police pulled the vehicle over, spoke with Waymo support, which we'll show in just a second. It's the last video I had. No citation issued. Officer, it went into opposing lanes of traffic, which is bad. And the legal standpoint, Arizona law requires AV permit applicants to acknowledge they, quote unquote, may be issued a traffic citation. Maybe. A Waymo spokesperson affirmed AVs follow the same road rules as humans. We already know that's not true. They're learning from humans and can be ticketed under state law. There has not been one single ticket in Arizona on an autonomous vehicle. So maybe they can be, but they aren't. So the reality in practice, Phoenix Police Department has said it's not feasible to issue citations to an AV company. None of the police reports resulted in a traffic ticket for Waymo. And that's where I have this last clip that I do want to play.
No, can you show me out at 7th Ave and Osborne? I got a unmanned vehicle that was kind of taken off from me. It's a Waymo car.
It's not every day you see a Phoenix police officer pulling over a driverless car.
Hi! Bye.
But that's what happened June 19th after the officer observed a Waymo going haywire in traffic.
I couldn't help but come over, just out of morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
I thought maybe there's a passenger or something.
No, like, you know the construction here?
Yeah.
It was eastbound in the westbound lanes.
Oh!
Which is real bad. Yeah. And then, so I light it up and then it takes off through the intersection.
While most Waymo cars can be seen throughout the city driving safely and behaving civilly, erratic driving is not completely out of the question for the artificial intelligence.
It was making a right onto Washington. Almost hit me. I had to swerve into the fast lane.
Phil Briggs says Tuesday he nearly got sideswiped by a Waymo on a mission with no regard for the car surrounding it.
My son saw an accident. We've seen him dead in the water in the middle of the intersection. So it's just, I don't see any good from it at all.
I reached out to Waymo to find out more about the potential for errors in their cars. Waymo sent me a statement, and they said Waymos are much better drivers than humans and 3.5 times more likely to avoid injury-causing crashes.
So your car here drove into oncoming lanes of traffic.
In the case last month, Waymo says the construction signage on 7th and Osborne was inconsistent, and because the officer blocked the car, it had to impede oncoming traffic. But the whole ordeal only lasted 1 minute.
If you or I are driving like that and we get pulled over, we get a ticket. So somebody needs to be held accountable.
So, I mean, what I got to say about that is, you know, the stats that even the Waymo is using, we're this much less likely to get into an accident. Yeah, but in Phoenix, where we're talking about, you haven't had one ticket. So your stats are blown and they're meaningless to me because you have never been ticketed. So in reality, you're a perfect driver. But we just heard that 40% of the accidents with Waymos are Waymo's fault.
Yeah. That's the level of accountability that you were talking about here is like, if you give a ticket to hypothetically the company, so what, right? I mean, there's nothing. What is the company going to do? You have to ticket a person. Yeah, I've never thought about that.
I mean, and the guy's right. I mean, like, again, all of us humans get hit enough as it is. Like, we do anything wrong, we get a ticket. But they've had that 202 or 200 and whatever it was incidents in a. It wasn't even a full 2 years. It was 21 to 23 or whatever it was. But it was like 20 months or 19 months is actually what the time span was. But all of those, not one of the not one ticket written, but 40% of them were the fault of Waymo, and the police just didn't know how to do it or didn't know what to do.
And the ticketing is something that at least I want to avoid. So I try to drive with the intent of not earning a ticket. I'm not really worried about dying in a car accident. I feel like I drive really safe for that. I drive thinking like I don't want to get in trouble. So I drive within the speed limit. I drive, whatever it might be. Yeah. So I'm thinking like that. So yeah, there's got to be some sort of way to hold the companies accountable, not necessarily for a death, because I'm sure there's ways to do that, or some sort of violent accident, or even damage to vehicles. But for just bad driving, there's no way to hold them accountable.
I mean, yeah. And so here's another thing. This is like the last part of the Arizona one. This is literally, so the same Arizona law that says driverless vehicles can't be ticketed without a driver. Here's what it has to say about, here's what it tells you to do if you're in an accident with a Waymo. So if Levi's driving in Arizona and a Waymo hits him, here's what he has to do. It's a crime in Arizona. It's not a crime to not have a driver in the car, but it's a crime to leave the scene of a crash without exchanging information. Applies to AVs too. So the steps you have to take, you have to pull over safely, visit waymo.com/notify, call emergency support, fill out a form to exchange insurance details. If no phone internet access, wait by the Waymo vehicle for the roadside assistance team. Regardless, you have to wait by the vehicle for the roadside assistance team because they have to come and deal with that. So there has to be a human when there is there. They're just not the human that was driving. That's why nobody can be ticketed, but the team has to come out. So there are incidents of people waiting for, it's hot in Arizona. It's 118 degrees, sun. You're sitting there, like
I was
there are
just there. I flew
incidents
back
of
from
people
Arizona
waiting
yesterday.
and leaving though, and going screw
Yeah.
this and leaving, and they can get a ticket. There was one report of a man who waited 8.5 hours for the assistance team. How is that even a thing?
That's
how many
crazy.
times I wouldn't have waited? I wouldn't have waited 8 minutes.
Yeah. 5 minutes is my max.
I would write a note. I'd throw it in the Waymo window.
And the air out of the tire,
I'd say, just call me when you get this figured out. He hit me. Screw you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Put the air out of the tires in the Waymo so it can't go anywhere, and put your note on it. Hey, I left it here disabled for you. So it can't drive away.
I mean, would you have waited 8.5 hours?
No, God, no. I don't wait for anything anymore. I'm so impatient. So I'm really bad. No, I think that's a really interesting thing. So, obviously the technology is really close. I think people are accepting of it. I think people want it. Passengers almost want it to some extent. But the regulations on basically day-to-day how to handle traffic, it kind of leads to your ultimate point that you were talking about, this idea it's either autonomous or nothing. It's like this hybrid between two spots leads to a lot of confusion. I'll leave you with this thought, as we're kind of coming to the end here. I dreamed this idea of like a perfect world, and it's not perfect, it's really dystopian, but pretend for a second, this perfect world where all cars are autonomous, like an autonomous zone. One of the things that we're seeing are these maps, right? So as Robotaxi is coming out in Austin, there's a map and where it can operate.
Yeah. They're almost
on
routes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I can see like certain sections of a city being autonomous only.
Yes.
Being like, you know what? You drive your car to this part of the city, park there. It's a mall, whatever it might be. An autonomous car will come pick you up, but the inner city, like imagine Midtown Manhattan, autonomous only, something like that. I could see that being the case, and then that almost answers to the point you're saying is like, hey, in this section it's autonomous only, but on this section humans drive, and it's almost like a form of mass transit.
Yeah, but how are you going to redo New York? And by the way, New York is launching autonomous, but they already signed a 5-year deal where there has to be a driver in the car. 5 years.
Correct.
So they already know it is not even close. But here's the thing. Here's my closing note before we just kind of banter it out here. But I just wanted to summarize California for you guys too, because this again is just a kind of another nail in the coffin. I agree with Levi. I think the technology is moving so quickly. It's there to do this. If all of us didn't have cars and cars weren't a thing, I think this is ready to deploy pretty much now. The problem is all the problems and the people driving themselves. So in California, in January 2022, Waymo sued the California Department of Motor Vehicles to prevent data on driverless crashes from being released to the public. Waymo maintained that such information constituted a trade secret. The topics Waymo wants to keep hidden, and this is a quote from the LA Times, include how it plans to handle driverless car emergencies, what it would do if a robot taxi started driving itself where it wasn't supposed to go, and what constraints there are on the car's ability to traverse San Francisco's tunnels, tight curves, and steep hills, end quote. Again, I'm just, and this is like, they're suing them going, you can't tell people, you can't be transparent about what happened with our accidents. Why? Again, if Levi and I get in a crash, it's all transparent. It all has to be brought out.
That's right. It goes on like a news report.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, people you can't go, well, I don't want to give away my trade secrets.
Hey, I'm telling you what, I'm not going to give you my secret spot where I see surges.
Here in February of 2022, Waymo was successful in preventing the release of the robo-taxi safety records in California. They won the case. To me, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
So I hear you. I fully agree on the autonomous stuff. I think we're there. I think the AI just came out of nowhere too. It was like around for a while. Now it's like it can solve everything immediately. and it's almost scary. You know, there's a famous quote from Einstein that says, you know, he fears most the day where technology overtakes humankind.
Getting close to it, aren't we?
And I think we're right there.
Yeah.
You know, I think that we
Just
really
about.
are right there. Like, you know, not to just quick side note, like, is I just saw that the robots that Tesla's making for your house to clean and all that stuff, they just loaded in a babysitter function. Good Lord. That's just horror movie waiting to happen in my book.
That's craziness. Yeah.
I would,
It's
I mean, you're going to leave your kid with the robot?
I wouldn't.
No,
not yet.
I mean, I don't know.
But you know, but my granddaughter, she will.
Yeah, no, and my kid will. That's where I think you and I totally agree. In their lifetime, they will see it in their 30s, 40s, whatever. Yes, it's the infrastructure, everything might even just be all autonomous.
Yeah.
So that insurance companies can stay in the game because they can't self-insure and whatnot. So
we should do another hour or 2 hour long segment about what's going to be like when humans don't have to work.
I know, because I think they're already leading to that by what we talked about in the beginning. But I want to thank Levi for joining. If you guys haven't checked out Levi, it's his handle is tip you in the app. He's on, we're streaming live on Twitter, streaming live on YouTube. I know both of those handles are correct for both those platforms. I don't know. Are you on other platforms?
Yeah, I'm all over the place. I think if you just Google Levi Spires, my name, you'll find
But
everything you want.
is it at tip you in the app and on all the platforms you're on?
No, just YouTube,
Okay.
but everything else is under my name. But I talk about rideshare and autonomous stuff and Tesla stuff on all of the platforms. But YouTube is where I am. I spend most of my time. Yeah. And that's tip you in the app.
Yeah. And his channel is already in the description of this video. So check it out, you guys. So I want to, you know, that's a wrap for this episode of The Conversation. I want to thank Levi. I want to thank all of you for joining us. Until next time, guys, be safe, earn smart. And I know you guys like different last ones that I pick here. So today I'm going to be, and don't be a dick.
She was just a baby. Ain't no way